and welcome to Taking Liberties episode 3. My name is Lee. This week I've got Vickers with me, as per always, sporting a brand new microphone. So you should make sure to tell him he sounds better, because he was very nervous about sounding better. He desperately wanted my confirmation that he sounded better. So make sure you email the message us and say, Vickers, you sound better. Welcome, Vickers.
Yeah, I need it. I need that confirmation.
And also joining us from the rather warm place of Brisbane is Justin Campbell. He is the general manager of Liberty Works, which is you're a think tank, correct?
Do tank, yeah.
So, do tank, that's right.
Campaigning organisation, yep.
And you should definitely check out their Facebook page. They have lots of great videos. If you've ever seen any of my videos, which probably none of you have, but if you have, Justin's are not only look better, but he sounds better and he sounds smarter. So you should really go check out his YouTube videos because he's quality.
Sounds smarter than us.
Yeah, well, not a hard standard.
Not at all.
But it's a real thing. This week we're going to talk about I don't know if it's kind of been confirmed. It hasn't really happened yet, but Cory Bernardi leaving the Liberals to start a new sort of alternative Conservative party, and we're also going to
called the Australian Majority.
And we're also going to sort of touch on the Trumble-Trump phone call and kind of trade and that kind of stuff. So,
President Trumble.
Yeah, Trumble. Yes, that's right. Which was actually probably one of the best things that came out of the entire thing. We'll get into that. So let's talk about Cory Bernardi. So for those who are somehow not aware of politics, Cory Bernardi is a Liberal senator from South Australia. He's a social conservative, he's
most famous for basically saying gay marriage will lead to bestiality.
Yes, yeah.
That's right. Yes.
And like last year, there were some rumblings of sort of some discontent. He started an Australian Conservative movement, and there was a web page that was the Australian Majority. And now today, we've been bombarded with news articles saying that he's going to split away. Though I don't know if we've had the press conference yet, so that's why I was like, I don't know what's going on. But anyway, nevertheless, it seems like it's happening. New Conservatives, and it's supposedly going to be a alternative to One Nation, which is for me the most interesting thing. So, gentlemen, what are your thoughts on Cory Bernardi making the move out of the Liberals?
I say we'll let the Queenslander speak, considering he's from Pauline Hanson land anyway.
Well, look, it's a crowded space at the moment. You've got One Nation who are there, and he's from the state of South Australia, so he's competing with Nick Xenophon. A lot of libertarians do like Cory Bernardi because he says a lot of things about lower taxes and things like that. But at the end of the day, he identifies as a conservative. He says a lot of conservative things. It's probably one more vote in the Senate that will vote against tax increases, so that's a good thing.
Yep.
But it's a bit like One Nation. In the Senate, in some ways, they could probably be a good thing. If they ever got real power and were able to put their agenda forward, that would be pretty scary.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. One of my issues kind of with this whole thing is, like, I mean, Tim Andrews of the Australian Taxpayers Alliance, like, who I think understands politics pretty seriously. He's a fan of Cory Bernardi and really thinks that
he used to work for him as well.
Oh, there you go. Okay, I didn't realise that. So I think Cory Bernardi actually has convictions, small government convictions. My issue is that I don't think it's not his priority. So theoretically, you've got all these Liberal politicians and others who say, yeah, we're for smaller taxes, but if they don't dedicate any time to it, it's not their burning passion, it's kind of irrelevant. And I think from at least my observation of Cory Bernardi, he is social conservative first and foremost. Like, it's really about the culture war. It's really about all that kind of stuff. And so everything else kind of plays second fiddle. So yeah, given the opportunity to vote on lower taxes, he might go for it. But it's not like he's going to come out with like Fight Back 2.0. Like, he's not going to be the guy that's going to be like really pushing the agenda. It's really going to be like Australian Majority seems to be, at least. I guess it depends who ends up making up the party. If it's just Cory Bernardi, it's one thing. If you get a bunch of ex-Liberals, maybe it's another. But like, it's really just going to be the kind of the home for people who don't like who are upset that Tony Abbott's no longer the Prime Minister, but don't want to go to One Nation.
Yeah, effectively, and that's the niche market he's trying to aim at. He's also trying. I think he probably might have an inroads with I want to say One Nation people that are having trouble with dealing with with Pauline Hanson's recent slapdowns on like her senators, where she said if you vote against the party intention or something, you've got to give me $250,000, which just I don't want to tell Pauline Hanson how party politics works, but I'm pretty sure that's not how party politics works.
Sure. Though, to be fair, can I just interrupt at that point? Like, I understand why she was doing that, and I think it's because the same problem that Cory Bernardi will face, the same problem that Palmer United face, same Katter, all of them will face the same problem. That is, minor parties
They're a personality
attract
cult?
lunatics. No, they
Absolutely
attract lunatics.
true.
They all of these people who are running for One Nation are crazy, and that's because there's people out there like what was her name, Leashat, Theresa Van Leashat, who ran for Palmer United, who I actually think is like certifiable. Like these people are keen about politics, but the major parties will drive them away because they may be like cynical and like exploitative, but they're not stupid, and they won't run these candidates. They won't last in the party. They'll just get driven out, and so they want to run. Pauline Hanson wants to run candidates in every single seat. Therefore, you need a lot of candidates, and who's going to sign up for a kamikaze run? Crazy people. So I actually think the $250,000 actually makes sense because it's not legal, but like it makes sense in this in the thing that it's at least it will keep them on the reservation. Because what you saw with Rod Carleton will happen with and what you saw with Palmer United is you're going to see every single person in those parties. They're all going to end up leaving because they're all bonkers, and you can't keep those people together on track. And so anyway, that. I actually thought it was a smart, like theoretically a smart move. Obviously, it's not legal, but anyway. Sorry, keep going.
I actually think it's a smart move for Malcolm, because right now
Trumble or
President Trumble.
Robert.
President Trumble. Yes, you're right. President Trumble is doing a great thing by letting this happen. If you think about it,
with Bernardi.
I'm actually convinced he's Frank Underwood. Like, I am legitimately convinced that Malcolm Turnbull is Frank Underwood. Because this is actually quite a genius move if you think about it from the perspective of you are a prime minister, right, that basically has this little conservative rabble in your group that basically just want to, sit there and chop at your heels and white ant the shit out of you. But now you've got their leader basically buggering off, right, to form his own party or threatening to form his own party. And you're just like, well, you can all leave with him, right, and face, absolute crush, getting crushed at the next election because you definitely don't have the numbers to actually win any seats. And I'm going to pick you up on the second preferences anyway, because, nobody's going to put Labour as their preference, like his voting electorate group. And I'm sitting there going, like, it's a smart ploy from, Malcolm's perspective. He gets to eliminate all these conservatives that are fucking chopping at his heels, and simultaneously he gets to consolidate his power base. Because who's going to replace these conservatives? Not conservatives. They've all left.
I don't know. I mean, there's always more. That's the thing about the Liberal parties. There's always more where they came from.
Sure,
So,
but
like,
but they're not
not
going
that I'm
yeah,
particularly
sure, but they're not
conservative.
going to be Delcons. They're not going to be Delcons, right? That's the difference. There might be
Well,
conservatives,
If
but
they're
they're not
smart,
going to
it will
be.
be. Like, to be perfectly honest, like only idiots would leave. Like, I think Cory Bernardi is an idiot for doing this. Like, just purely from like a pragmatic point of view. If he was smart, he'd stay in the party. Like, he's going to get destroyed. Like, I mean, maybe not him, but everybody who goes with him is going to get destroyed. Like, no one's going to go with him because Cory Bernardi has a personality. He's got like a brand in and of himself because he is the standout social conservative, and so he's gonna draw kind of all the social conservatives to him. But everybody else is just going to get completely annihilated, like, because no one else knows who these other people are, and so they'll just,
Well, it depends. I mean, if he gets George Christensen on board, everybody knows who George Christensen is. He's the crazy guy.
So.
He's the crazy guy with the whip.
Justin, you're the
He's the
Queenslander.
crazy guy with
That's
the whip.
fine.
He's the crazy guy with the whip who loves Duterte and killing drug dealers. I mean, that's who
And
George
say
Christensen
taxation
is.
is theft.
Another great champion of liberty right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I mean, okay,
I
I don't know, Justin. Like, is George Christensen? Does he have a brand in Queensland?
I'd say he does. I
Okay.
say he does. But these are very confused times. There's lots of people who claim to support liberty who are really just about the culture wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and the fact that somebody says, "Oh, I think taxation is fair doesn't really make them a libertarian.
Well,
And-
careful. If you say that in front of Tim Andrews, right? That's fighting words. I mean, you have to realize we have a tradition and a culture in this country. You can't go against the party tradition.
I mean, yeah. So, I think the only other people who would leave for Australian majority are essentially the normal people, kind of people who defect up to a party. That is, people who are about to not get pre-selected, and therefore want to try and maximize their chances of getting re-elected, and so they jump ship. Like that's the standard kind of person that defects. Like it's very rare you get like a Don Chip style, sick of, or even I guess like Cory himself, like just sick of the kind of the way things are and wants to do something different. Most of the people who change parties it's for purely political concerns, and they're about to get wiped out anyway. Like if they weren't going to get wiped out, they'd stay where they are.
Well, that's what happened with Pauline Hanson, right? She was endorsed by the Liberal Party, and then she was unendorsed for all the things that she said about Chinese people.
Yeah.
And then she came and stormed the Senate with her One Nation Party.
Stormfronted the Senate.
Stormfronted the Senate.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. All right. Was there any other sort of comments on Cory Bernardi? Anybody have?
One thing I'd say is I think he's competing with One Nation, and I think if you're competing for the far right vote, for the kick all the Muslims out vote, and it's a pretty big vote. Like I see it a lot on social media. You need to be the most extreme.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to get shot for this, but the LDP to some degree, I think, has been chasing that sort of right wing.
Yeah, and I call them retarded for doing it because Pauline Hanson can be much more offensive, and she really doesn't give a shit what she says.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you're not going to out Pauline Hanson.
Yep.
And and I think Cory will have the same problem. In the end, he's an ex-Liberal. He might do all right in South Australia, but all the people who have F off we're full on the back of their car, they're not gonna go, oh, Cory Bernardi over Pauline Hanson.
Sure.
No.
I guess the counter argument to that is, well, I mean, firstly, there's kind of with One Nation, there's sort of a couple of different votes in there. You got the crank vote, which is just like all the Malcolm Roberts of the world. No offense to him, but actually probably offense to him. But
he's a nice guy.
I'm sure he's a nice guy, but like people who are kooks, like they're just kind of a bit out there. They they think that climate change is a Bilderberg Illuminati conspiracy to kill everybody, like or they think that because Australia's a corporation in America, we don't have the Constitution anymore. I mean, you look at Rod Culleton.
Just to be sure, we're not saying that Malcolm Roberts believes all of that, because we might be verbaling him if we are.
I think that he's kind of indicative of kind of a particular sort of group of people. I mean, Rod Culleton is that as well. Like his argument in the High Court was that the High Court was not properly constituted under the Queen because of some like wording of something. It's just like, are you serious? Are you like, what are you smoking to make you like? That's not. This is a thing. So there's kind of that's the crank vote, but then you've also got like the disaffected Liberals, which is really what Cory Bernardi's after. Like he's not really after the cranks, and
they call themselves Delcons though.
Well, no, yeah. Well, the Delcons are the disaffected Liberals. They're the ones who don't like Malcolm Trumbull.
Malcolm Trumbull.
What did I say?
you said Malcolm Trumbull.
Yeah, Malcolm Trumbull. Yeah. Well, that's what we're gonna call him now. Why not?
I've been calling him President Trumbull.
Well, okay, we'll call him President Trumbull. Since he's a Republican, I guess it makes sense. Imagine if the referendum got through, like he would be the first person to nominate to be president. So, so President Trumbull, like all the people who were upset with him, though strangely they weren't upset with the kind of the crappiness of Tony Abbott. I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you go back and read Bolt and Blair, like they were getting pretty upset with how Tony Abbott was running things because he was just really crap. Like he was just really shit at being PM. And yet when he was done,
absolutely,
like they just hated Malcolm Turnbull because
he's Malcolm Turnbull.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to know how long that's going to stay like that though. Like the disaffected Liberals are going to stay because President Trumbull could just be overthrown tomorrow. Like if Australian majority, if Cory Bernardi breaks away with 3 or 4 other senators, Malcolm Trumbull's probably dead in the water. And then at what point did they not get welcomed back in because now Scott Morrison is PM or somebody else? Please, Lord, Tim Wilson rises up to become Prime Minister. That would be a great world. But there's other people who could take over, and then that kind of takes away their vote. They just cease to have a reason to exist, because if they're just the anti-President Trumbull movement, well then, when he's gone, they're done.
Yeah. To be perfectly fair, the best reason I've ever heard for toppling Malcolm Turnbull is that I think Australians will then finally change the batteries on their smoke alarms. I mean, change the battery with the change of the president, right?
Okay.
I mean, change to the Prime Minister. I've forgotten the rule.
Yeah.
Anyway. Bad jokes. Anyway.
Bad joke like that. Yeah. The other point I was going to make, because actually, when this first started brewing, I commented on my Facebook page, which is Aussie Liberty, if anybody cares, which you don't, but if you do, it's there.
It's great. Watch it. Trust me.
You're so kind. We should have you on every week now. So I commented on this saying, I just didn't understand the logic of it, because of what I just said, they're going to get annihilated, but also because they don't have the infrastructure. So one of the reasons why it's effectively impossible to topple the Liberals and Labor is that they've got, in the case of Labor, 100 years of organising people and all money and all the architecture of a political party, and the Liberals have, they basically have 100 years. Before the Liberals, it was the
UAP, United Australia Party.
And they had a form. There was something before that. So essentially, the parties hasn't even changed. It's just kind of evolved.
It was the Protectionist Party, ironically, before that.
But the merging of the Protectionist Party and the Free Trade Party, isn't that a great symptom of Australian liberty? But essentially, they've both got 100 years of kind of this infrastructure of organisation and databases and money. And you can't overthrow that. It might eventually kind of just, like the Roman Empire, it might just eventually just fall apart, or the Soviet Union might just crumble eventually. But you can't really overthrow it. You can't really just sort of storm the battlements and tear it down and wave, put your own flag on the parapet. To go up against that.
It's funny that you say that, because that's literally what Menzies did in 1939.
Yeah, but he was a member of the party before that, though. So
it's Cory Bernardi.
Yeah, but it wasn't a split. It wasn't split away. It was essentially an internal revolution. So essentially, the party evolved, but it wasn't. He split away, started a new party, and then it's. I guess the Whigs and the Republicans is probably a different sort of example of kind of where heaps of people broke away in the US, in the 18 whatever, and the Whigs kind of died off.
1860s,
but like that, yeah.
It did happen in Canada. In Canada, the Conservative Party is relatively young. It was some sort of, I think it was called the Reform Party or something like that, and they ended up merging with the old Conservative Party, but it was really a takeover. Yep. So that was Stephen Harper. So it can happen, but pretty.
I thought they merged with the Tories.
Sorry? Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Never mind. Yeah, let's not talk about Canadian politics.
If Tony Abbott wasn't such an absolute piss weak PM, if he actually genuinely did have some sort of principles, or actually did sort of have some credibility as a Prime Minister, he could probably do that. He could say, I'm breaking away, and 40 lower house MPs goes with him, and 20 senators go with him, and then that's genuinely, I think, a real threat to the established order. But I don't really see it happening where Cory Bernardi leaves with 2 or 3 other disaffected Liberals to the Senate, and then all of a sudden the Liberal Party falls apart, and he's there to sort of clean up the mess. It's just not going to happen. It need to be, because the thing is, in the next election, the Liberals are still going to run all these candidates, and they've still got the rusted on 30% of the vote. So unless you can dent that, you're really not going to be able to change the way things work. Because Cory Bernardi might get re-elected. None of the other guys get re-elected. In their place are elected party hacks, just like they always are. And then life just continues as it is. So I think I actually just don't see this as a realistic threat at all at this stage.
I agree with you about the general point you're making, and this is why I've been involved in a few political parties from back when I was left-wing to now, and I just don't think political parties achieve change. It's much easier to create an organisation, on the left, Get Up, Liberty Works, Australian Taxation Alliance, create a broad church. Because with major parties, it's amazing. Like even the Australian Democrats, they've been around for 20, 30 years, whatever it been, and you tell people, "Oh, vote the Australian Democrats," and they'll be like, "No, piss off, mate." The vast majority of people will not buy into a new political party. It doesn't matter how good your policies are, how good your arguments are, but most of our politicians are pretty spineless. So if you really wanted to achieve something, apply pressure to them and they'll cave.
Yeah, absolutely. They are followers, not leaders.
Mm.
All right, we've gone for 20 minutes on good old Cory. That's more than we've ever talked about him before. I'm sure he's honoured to have been spoken of so highly on this show. Are there any final comments before we sort of talk about Trumble v. Trump?
No, I want to move on to Trumble v. Trump.
Okay, let's talk about it. So,
it's such a great piece of work.
Seriously, if you might have missed the Cory Bernardi thing, you probably haven't missed the Trumble-Trump thing. So, I won't even bother to explain it because what are your thoughts? Just look at the internet. I mean, if you missed it, you somehow, I don't know, like you.
There's a great SNL skit if you've missed this. The SNL skit's probably way better than any of the reporting on it. My favorite part about this was the day after it, where Donald Trump, after having tweeted, Obama's made this deal where we're taking all these refugees from Australia. This is a terrible deal. And then followed by him going like, I will investigate it. The next day going like, I didn't hang up on the Prime Minister and I didn't tell him we weren't taking the refugees. Along with, his thing, like fake news and all of that stuff. Yep. I'm sitting there and going, like, so clearly the deal had certain things with Australia that the US wanted, and in exchange we were giving them 1,250 refugees that we'd vetted. I mean, it doesn't take much of a genius to figure out that that's what was going on. Maybe there's a new base being popped up here. I don't know, right? But it's clearly something the Yanks want.
Like Obama could just be doing us a solid because he's more pro-refugee. I mean, it's had to sort of. I think
Obama
with his deportation record, setting records for deportations of Mexicans, but
I'm about 90% sure that he did it to piss Trump off.
Okay,
I agree with you there. Yes. Yeah,
he signed the deal 2 weeks after Trump won.
I didn't realize the timing. Yeah, okay. That makes more sense.
One thing I'd like to say about it is I was quite surprised that Trump backed down the way he did, and I think perhaps maybe it was something America wanted. I'm thinking perhaps that the fact that he was really starting to cop it, that people were thinking, oh my God, Trump's fighting with Australia. Like, this is a country that fought the Iraq War, was a good idea. Like, if he's...
That's a good point. We did think the Iraq War was a good idea.
So, if we're fighting with Australia, this guy can't get along with anyone. And I think maybe...
Which would be an absolutely correct observation to make. Like, he cannot get along with anybody.
Yeah. I kind of thought, gee, if, we're their second closest ally after Britain, so and unlike Britain, we won't criticise them, so the fact that, I think that might have been what happened, is he was making him look really bad that he couldn't even get along with Australia.
Yeah, I was gonna say the reaction. If you've taken a look at like all of the comedians, all of the news stations in America, even Fox News is taking the piss out of him for picking this fight. It's like, you're picking a fight with Australia. You are picking a fight with a country that has literally never disagreed with us on anything.
The best thing is like, people making that comment just say it's like completely self-evident that you shouldn't pick a fight with us. Like, you're picking a fight with Australia, full stop. It's like, they don't have to explain why it's a bad idea. It just is a bad idea. Which kind of makes me feel glad to be Australian. Like, they love us so much. It's supremely self-evident. Because if they picked on the Brits, they'd be like, yeah, stick it to them, those bloody redcoats. But it's great.
We have disagreed with America, but just to show what a awesome ally we are, it's something that that even Americans were shocked about, that we're like, you're crazy, why are you abstaining on the vote on Israel? Like, we're more America than Americans.
Actually, I forgot about that. We were Julie Bishop was just like, what is the United States doing? Why are you abstaining from this vote?
Well, because Obama. Like, I mean, I think it's not not unfair to say he probably wasn't like. I mean, yeah, there's lots of reasons to criticize Israel, but like this kind of stuff in the UN is usually like a pretty solid
grandstanding.
Well, it is. I mean, it's grandstanding on both sides, but yeah, like anyway.
Like, look, but anyway, like, yes, there was a large part of this where he was forced to back down because the public's just not on his side on this one.
Yep.
Even if it's refugees, they're sitting there and going like, but it's Australia. Like, it's the land with funny animals and stuff, right? And it just doesn't gel with them. They can't understand it because most of them just know Australia as like this ally that we've had for a long time, and that Simpsons episode with a boot.
With the boot.
Right? That's what they know about Australia. And to be perfectly fair, I was trolling the shit out of Americans by going, Donald Trump's going to get the boot.
Yeah.
I guarantee you he's going to get the boot. It's our most sacred tradition.
Yeah.
He is getting the boot. To which, I half expected like an Australian politician to just say that jokingly. Just go like, he's going to get the boot.
He's going to get the boot. I do have one concern from our end about this is that we're paying this Department of Foreign Affairs a lot of money. We've got the US Study Centre or whatever they're called in Sydney, and all of these so-called experts, and none of them thought, maybe negotiating a really controversial refugee agreement with a lame duck president after a very anti-refugee president-elect's just been elected might be a bad idea. No one thought, maybe Obama's just trolling here.
I think they absolutely did think of that, and what they were looking at it from. See, here's the thing. I am not a diplomat, but if I was, right, I'd be thinking about this from the perspective. Yes, I'm not a murderer, but if I was, no, but if I was a diplomat, I'd be looking at this from a perspective of what are Australia's strategic interests. And the thing is, now you've got a bargaining chip, right? Like, if he wants to walk away from this deal, you're like, you can. Right, it's a very it's a deal that was signed, and we're a very close ally. If you can't sign deals with us, people are going to start questioning what deals you can sign with anyone.
Yeah.
And that gives you a very powerful bargaining chip in terms of what your strategic next deal would be. You're not expecting this deal to go through necessarily.
Yeah, except I think Trump wants that. Like, I think he wants everybody to think that he's the deal maker. He's the guy who can get it done, and every deal is like not a done deal because he is, unless he is personally signed off on it. It's.
But that's why this is perfect, right? He said that it's a bad deal.
Sure. Yeah. So
and we're not necessarily like, I don't think we're necessarily married to the idea of sending 1,250 refugees there. Yeah. Right? But I'm sure there are diplomats here and probably the government who's looking at specific strategic interests and going, it might help us bolster our sphere of influence to have the United States help us out on something.
Sure, yeah. So, from our perspective, it's a good thing. The deal is good, but like from Trump's perspective, to be erratic and to not honor the deal, that's working in his favor because he wants to be the guy that wants to open every negotiation. Like, he wants everybody to think, I can't be sure that this is a done deal because he personally has not signed off on it.
That's
sure,
true.
Which actually doesn't necessarily in the US's interest as a whole.
Yeah.
But like his personal political interest is to say every deal is back on the table. Nothing can be taken for granted because it's only a done deal till I sign off on it. Because he's essentially creating a personality cult with him at the center.
Yeah, and which actually works very well for us in the sense of what I was talking about. Like this erratic behavior is perfect because, like I said, we might not necessarily want to send those 1,250 refugees there, right? We can use this to negotiate something better, and it gives him the ability to say that he negotiated a better deal with us.
Yeah.
Just to take it a bit, I've got a concern that Australia has wasted so much of its foreign affairs resources on this issue, on the refugee issue. For 16 years, we've just invested so much with our relationship with Indonesia, now with the United States. Like, how it's just this giant beast that keeps, how much time do you think DFAT actually must spend on trying to negotiate all these refugee agreements and stopping boats and all of that, when they should be trying to negotiate trade treaties and
that's because the politics are pointed that way.
Yes, yeah, but it really, this whole phone call with Trump, like, it even is hurting our relationship with the United States, and you know, like, how much resources do we want to waste just so we don't have to, so we have to keep this offshore detention center system running? It's not only costing us billions of dollars, but it's also consuming all the energy of our government in foreign affairs.
And, you know, it's deeply illiberal as well. But, like,
that too.
Yeah,
yes.
so, like, from a libertarian's perspective, it makes no sense. From just a general politics view, it makes sense because if you need to, for some reason, because I guess because John Howard pioneered it, you need to look tough on refugees. And, well, I mean, not even that, it's Labor pioneered it, I guess. I mean, it started under Keating, so, you know, it's part of kind of the. I mean, it's exactly. You could ask the same question of, like, how many resources is Trump going to expend on getting Mexico to pay for the wall? Well, probably lots. That makes no sense, kind of from a rational perspective, but from a political perspective, he needs to look tough, and the only way we can do that is by building the wall and making them pay for it. And in the same way, like, yeah, we would save more money, and it'd be fairer and more just and a better world in almost every conceivable way if we just let refugees come to detention centers in Australia, or just let them come in general. But, like, that's not how you
I'm not in favor of generally just saying everybody can come in, but, like, I'm okay with the, because we have public utilities, and there is this and there is a tragedy of commons problem that occurs with mass intake of refugees and, you know, immigrants, if they're not immediately paying in or investing into the capital of the public infrastructure.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's why. Yeah, and that's why I'm totally fine with, like, a tariff system or something there in place. So, like, a market-based mechanism, which caters for that public infrastructure cost. Now, that's not to say that we should necessarily always have that, and we should always have public infrastructure. Surely we can start leveling it off and decreasing it, and eventually putting it back in the hands of private. Sorry, not private, but civil society.
Yep.
Where infrastructure is built by local needs, I guess you could say. Go on.
Leaving aside the whole, I mean, I guess it probably came across as me just saying open borders, but, like, even if you just process them very quickly, even if you just literally detain them long enough to, you know, to check their identity and then send them on their way, like community detention or something that's not involving putting them in prison camps in the desert or on a tropical island, like. You know, even if you still had, like, restrictions on how many refugees we took in, like, that would still be better than the current system, which is spending billions of dollars to essentially lock them up, some indefinitely, in prison camps overseas.
But see, this is where the problem comes. I agree with what you're saying, right?
Yep.
We should process them quickly. And, you know, it's just a quick check of, you know, all of their details and all of that stuff. But the problem we have is precisely that point, because we do need to corroborate their details and everything. And the corroboration of their details are occurring with countries that are outright hostile with us, right? And trying to get those people to come back, right? So the incentive structure from those countries is that they don't share that information, right? Which basically leaves these people in that detention, or, you know, whatever you want to create, whatever bureaucratic process you want to create. Yep. These people are going to be stuck in it for a little while because we can't verify their information because they're coming from hostile countries.
Sure, but, like, that's not, like, the political kind of take on all this is not just being we need to process them as reasonably quickly as we can given the circumstances of the difficulty finding information. Like, that's not, it's we need to be tough, we need to make them wait, we need to make sure they never come to Australia. So like, I agree that that's a reasonable thing to make people wait so we can actually, you know, find out who they really are. That's fine. But, like, I don't think that's how the system actually works. Like, I think that, like, what it actually works is politicians come along saying we're not going to take any more refugees for 6 months, or, you know, they're never going to touch Australian soil. Like, there's all this political stuff, and that's got nothing to do with, like, the reasonable treatment of refugees. Yeah. It's entirely to do with looking tough.
Which is the inefficiency of a quota system, right? Like, and I'm about to spruik the LDP's policy here, but if it was a tariff system,
sure.
What you could do is you would have individuals taking on that risk rather than the government itself, right? Because people can pay the $50,000 or whatever it is for these people to come in.
Sure.
You put your money where your mouth is.
But I don't know if that would solve the political issue, which is they need to look tough. Because refugees apparently are the devil, and we need to keep them out. But so I mean,
they're not sending our best. They're not sending us their best.
They're sending us the rapists. Anyway, like we're starting to we've run over time, so we need to probably wrap it up. But maybe in future we can talk about we've talked about it before in previous episodes. I'm sure if you just search, you'll find our previous episodes where we talk about immigration, and we've talked about the quota, and we've talked about the LDP policy, which I'm sure all three of us kind of broadly agree with as like a better way forward. But
absolutely.
All right, well, Justin, do you want to give like a quick spruik to Liberty Works that we haven't already covered? Tell us where they can find you.
Okay, well, you can go to our website, libertyworks.org.au. So what we are is we're a do tank. We've been very focused on free speech, 18C type of issues in the last year, and this year we're going to focus very heavily on the renewable energy target, which is a terrible piece of policy that's going to drive up the cost of electricity in this country, and it won't do anything to prevent climate change.
And I think you guys did, was it a video recently or an article?
Oh, yeah. Anne Ali shredded the IPA submission to the free speech inquiry, and I did a video on that. And
I thought there was one on the renewable energy target recently as well. Was that just...
Yes, there was a short one on that, but in the coming year, we're looking to do a lot, and the other thing is doing a big a fact checker type of thing. There's so many lies that what I'm calling big renewable, just things like solar's now cheaper,
I've had this debate so many times. Freaking I'm happy.
Okay, well, I think we've got a topic for next week.
About this.
Yeah, next week. Yeah. You want to come back next week, Justin?
No. What we can do is we've done after episodes before. We can cut it off at the end of this and then do an after. Stinger. But anyway, right. So let's just end the episode. Whenever
all right. Well, we'll talk about. We might have another episode up in the next couple of days, and after episode. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Thanks for coming on, Justin and Vickers. And we'll be back again next week. Don't forget you can like us and share us and subscribe us on our social media, which is Taking Liberties Radio. And we're on iTunes, YouTube, all that. All right. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Yeah.